It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I just saw this article here. I'm not sure where it's going, but I have a feeling some people will not feel as sympathetic as this article wishes you to be.
Okay.
Wealth can be pretty isolating. The problems that the ultra-rich people face, according to therapists.
Tell me about it.
Was I right in my initial analysis?
Yeah.
There may not be a ton of sympathy for this article. According to therapists who CNBC spoke to, more often than not, the super rich struggle with a spectrum of emotions that many others tend to share. Most people cannot understand how rich people can have problems. They dismiss rich people's mental health concerns as insignificant and of diminished importance, said Paul Hochmeyer, a clinical psychotherapist who treats the ultra-rich. Can money buy happiness? Contrary to what many people think, $1 million paycheck does not necessarily come with a problem-free pass. Well, yeah, that's like a duh. That's one of the things I've always thought about. You win the lottery. Gary, you just won $1 billion. Oh, man, what a hassle it's going to be to work through all of this.
Well,
I guess I'll be busy for the next year trying $1 billion. Where do I put it? Well, you've got to find an advisor. Yeah, one that I can really trust. Now I got more worries.
Yeah.
Who can I trust with my $1 billion?
Right. Nobody.
Exactly. I'm going to have to do it myself.
By the way, stay away from New York.
Hey, you may be my financial counselor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gary first saying, Eric, I want $1 billion. What should I do? Stay away from New York.
Stay away from New York.
Or California, too.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've talked a while about someone who is famously wealthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you get into the arena of Donald Trump, Mark Cuban, Bezos, all of them. When you're famously wealthy, I actually heard someone say yesterday after they became famous, all their high school friends started reaching out. Well, not all. A few of their high school friends reached out and asked for money. Cuban talked about how his email is inundated every day of people, asking for money. But even without being famously wealthy, I have a family member who works for somebody who's famously wealthy, and I wouldn't do the job that she's doing. There's not a chance. And so if you look at then just managing, that kind of wealth, we're talking about the super billionaires. Yeah, that would be that's going to be a thing. Their left is going after Jeff Bezos for leaving Washington State, going to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he got to Florida, he started buying up houses in his neighborhood. So basically, he's building a lair. I'm telling you, he's building a lair in Florida.
You've said that.
Yeah, and he's building he's buying all these adjacent properties. And, but there, you kind of ask yourself, and I told you earlier during a break, I don't ever see myself at a point in life of wanting to do nothing. In other words, we all talk, or people often talk about, I can't wait to retire, relax, take it easy. I don't want to relax and take it easy. There's time for that along the way. And there will be a time when I permanently relax and take it easy.
Yeah, but you see how many billionaires don't.
Well, and that's
They always
the
are
difference
something.
between, those individuals. And you think about, we've talked about this with the redistribution of wealth idea over the years. If you were to take all the money collectively from all of the billionaires, well, first of all, it wouldn't be a grain of sand on an entire beach of what would need to be accomplished, let's say, for the national debt or anything like that, or helping the poor even, and all of those things. But let's say you did that for the sake of the discussion. Well, it wouldn't be long before those people were successful again. They have a certain type of work ethic where they love what they do. Warren Buffett is working into his 90s. Jeff Bezos is probably going to be the same. He's a guy who started a bookstore out of his garage. If you would have told me, if one of my friends ever along the way came to me, hey, man, I'm starting an internet bookstore out of my garage, I would have laughed so hard. But look where he is now. These are visionaries that have this kind of, they put in that kind of work because they love it and they have that kind of, vision in order to get there. And so when we think of the wealthy individuals, there are a lot of people that love to, I guess, show off their wealth, that have been very successful. But a lot of the millionaires you'll see out there, or actually you don't see, is because they don't show off their wealth. They're not looking to show off their wealth. And they're looking to retire. Maybe they're looking to leave it to family members or something else. And still doesn't negate the fact that you're not going to get much sympathy in writing an article, about
right.
them, But when you talk about that, people might be surprised. I just saw a story. It was yesterday. I didn't get to read the entire thing. I bookmarked it and saved it for later. But the area where we live in Austin, in Texas, we have some of the wealthiest cities in the country, and a lot of it has to do with the amount of wealth that comes here from corporations and everything else like that. You can see it. I mean, it's just booming right now, especially in North Texas where we are. That is always exciting to me. The money is part of it. When you become successful in life or something, that's part of it. But the bigger part of it is the reward for the work that you have put in. And some people would say, well, starting an internet company and then selling it isn't real work, and it was, they rose to that level of wealth very quickly. And I don't have any idea how much work they put in, but it's not something that everybody can do. So it is work.
Yeah, I'm looking here. Feelings of isolation, number one problem.
Uh-huh.
They live in such a rarefied place of the top 1% that there are very few people who can share the realities of their world. That is true.
Yeah. Well, that's something that
right.
that the one gamer that the guy who started Minecraft, Marcus Persson, he goes by Notch is his nickname, but he was online one night and he was talking about how when he became, again, famously wealthy, big corporation bought Minecraft from him. He said, I was at this gathering and he's new money and now famously wealthy. And there are people in the room that were not wealthy, and then others who were also very wealthy, in fact, wealthier than him. So he became a multi-billionaire. And then he's looking around and he goes, it's weird because I don't know if that person that does not have money is talking to me because they know I have money. And I don't know if those people that have more money than me accept me. And is it that they only accept me because I have this money now? And you don't fit into a category, especially if you're famously wealthy.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've never, not close to any of this, but I know just in our business, one person said to me, and this is a person I knew, a woman who I knew early in my career, and she got out of the business and I was still in it. And when I got to where I am now, she said to me one time, you're so lucky. I went, because that's what they say here. People tend to see you as lucky and happy. She goes, "You're so lucky." I go, "Lucky? What are you talking about? Like I just won the lottery or something." It's like, I had to work for this. And what was the other? Oh, yeah. This is somebody who was this was a younger person in college one time, listened to the show and everything else, and I got this one, which was great. Can I ask you a question? Yeah, sure. What does it feel like to be Gary McNamara? Oh my God, I burst out laughing. Because of course, if somebody asked you that, you'd laugh too, because I've never had.
I'm not Gary McNamara. That would be funny.
That would be interesting. But if they asked you what's it like to be Eric Harley, you burst out laughing because it's like you've never had that thought before, and somebody else is actually thinking that you're walking around thinking, well, I'm this is my name, and I feel this way. It's like you don't.
Well, it's like this is how I get tables at restaurants. Sir, you're at Chili's.
Yes,
you'll have to wait.
Yes, there may have been a bartender one time that said, "Hey, serve Gary first," but that was because I left a big tip the last time.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it said, but they noted too that the rich feel grief and trauma and losses. It's like, then paranoia and distrust. I can understand that if you're rich. Oh my gosh.
And that would be a big deal if I were, if you're talking about multi-billionaire, that paranoia probably would be constant for me.
Yeah, well, and the thing is too, I mean, if you start out, for example, and you become rich and you're young and you're single, and it's like, okay, does anybody actually love me for who I am?
Right.
Or is it my image that
right.
they see? And that would be a tough one. And also a distorted sense of purpose. There's also a difference between those who have earned their wealth compared to those who inherited it or suddenly came upon a large sum of money.
Well, sure.
And that would be guilt that people would feel at that point. It's not fair. I would never feel that if I became a billionaire. I'd say, okay, this is an opportunity to do a lot of things that can help a lot of people. And I don't mean necessarily just charities. I mean businesses that you can get in, because you and I both believe that one of the best things you can do is invest your money in capitalism to create more wealth that helps people across the board.
I don't see another reason. I don't see a greater purpose. I mean, certainly you want to provide for your family, and you can do that very easily. I wouldn't want a big, 30,000 square foot mansion or something. That to me wouldn't feel like home. Land, in fact, that's something we're looking into, later in life. But I'm not talking about, some kind of big grand spread or something, 40, 50, 60 acres or something like that. But it's not, I wouldn't, for me, the greater knowing that money could go on and generate wealth for organizations, that I find that are worthy of it would be so much better.
That would, I agree with you on that one. I could never live in a mansion.
Yeah.
It's not a home. I couldn't walk into a home and I have a 50-foot granite ceiling, and and then you see granite marble, stones stairways going up, both sides up to the upper rooms. I'm like, nah, that's a government building. I want to live in a home has lower ceilings,
right?
And I couldn't do that. I also would never have a cruise ship.
Yeah, like a yacht thing.
I would never have I would never have a yacht. I would though have a private jet. I would have.
I have a friend who has a lease on a private jet. He's been very successful. I worked with him right out of college, and he sees that as a way to efficiently travel.
Right.
Because of his business, it's not so much about being on the jet as much as it is about getting there quicker. So it
getting
helps.
there quicker,
you can
getting
buy
home
the
quick,
time.
and getting
when you can buy that time, that to me is a worthy investment. But the buying something, I don't know, a little more outlandish. Give me a good truck, man. I'm great. I love it.
And even though I'm the single guy, I'm not going to strip clubs. If I'm a billionaire, they can come to me. No, I'm just
yeah, exactly. Do you, Gary? Is that a pole in the middle of the living room? What is that?
Come to my entertainment room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's
and I'm not going to have a zoo or an amusement park.
No. It's interesting because Marcus Persson that we were talking about before, one of the things he did was built a wall of candy. You know those candy stores you go in and you buy the candy by the pound? Used to be in the malls when we had malls. And he built one of those with the big sliding ladder that goes back and forth where you could just, because he's basically a gamer that created a gamer. I mean, he's a very smart guy. Created a game and sold it, one of the most successful games. And so he's, if I'm going to sit around and be gaming, I'm going to have all this, all these snacks. And he has an entire wall of candy in his living room.
But if you ask me whether I'd rather have $1 billion or this, what I have right now, I'd rather have this.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm good here. I'm good here.
I'm fine. If that was a choice, you get $1 billion, this goes away. I mean, you have the choice.
Oh, if this is, if it's going to, and it would have to change your life because managing that kind of money is a full-time job.
Exactly. So I just don't want, because it would be a business managing that money, and I wouldn't trust anybody else with it.
If I'm not on it every day, I got to be hands-on.
So I'd rather do this.
Yeah. So, I wouldn't.
And that wouldn't even be a thought.
Right.
Well, think about it overnight. Don't need to.
No.
And then I'd get fired the next day here. I wish I would have taken the $1 billion.
Yeah, exactly.
866-90-RED-EYE.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
In its first forecast for this year's U.S. rice crop, USDA is projecting production of 220.2 million hundredweight. That would be 2 million more than this past season. But unfortunately,
an increase in U.S. production is coming right at the same time. The global supplies are also expanding to a new record.
And USDA Outlook Chairman Mark Jekanowski says that will limit U.S. rice exports. But even so,
we still expect growth in U.S. rice exports.
USDA projecting those exports to hit 100 million hundredweight compared to 94 for this past season. Mark says one reason for the higher exports is, of course, the larger available supplies, which will bring down prices, making the U.S. product a little more affordable for potential buyers.
And we are predicting U.S. season average all rice price of $15.60 per hundredweight.
Down 13% from last year. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. This from Associated Press yesterday. As North Carolina's public university system considers a vote on changing its diversity policy, the system's flagship university board voted Monday to cut funding for diversity programs in next year's budget. The University of North Carolina Chapel Hill Board of Trustees approved a change that would divert $2.3 million of diversity spending from state funds to go towards public safety and policing at a special meeting to address the university's budget. All right. Am I drinking a beer or something here? Is there something in the air?
No.
Is this actually happening? Taking money from DEI and giving it to police? The board's vote would only impact UNC Chapel Hill's diversity funding, which could result in the loss of its diversity office. UNC will join the ranks of other notable public universities that have stripped diversity spending, such as the University of Florida in Gainesville, which announced in March that it was reallocating funds to faculty recruitment. There you go.
Wow.
observing and analyzing the insanity. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara, nightly on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Our audio cut of the day. All right.
Okay.
Jerry Seinfeld
All right.
as the commencement speaker at Duke.
And this is probably the biggest point I would like to make to you here today regarding humor. I'm going to try and reach across a couple generations here to tell you the most important thing I am confident that I know about life. I'm 70. I'm done. You are just starting. I only want to help you. The slightly uncomfortable feeling of awkward humor is okay. It's not something you need to fix. I totally admire the ambitions of your generation to create a more just and inclusive society. I think it is also wonderful that you care so much about not hurting other people's feelings in the 1,000,001 ways we all do that every second of every day. It's lovely to want to fix those things, but, all caps, but, what I need to tell you as a comedian, do not lose your sense of humor. You can have no idea at this point in your life how much you are going to need it to get through. Not enough of life makes sense for you to be able to survive it without humor. And I know all of you here are going to use all of your brains and muscle and soul to improve the world, and I know you're going to do a bang-up job. And when you're done, as I am now, I bet the world, because of you, will be a much better place. But it will still not make a whole hell of a lot of sense. It'll be a better, different, but still pretty insane mess. And it is worth the sacrifice of an occasional discomfort to have some laughs. Don't lose that. Even if it's at the cost of occasional hard feelings, it's okay. You gotta laugh. That is the one thing at the end of your life you will not wish you did less of. Humor is the most powerful, most survival, essential quality you will ever have or need to navigate through the human experience.
Giddy up.
There you go.
He did a bunch of stuff. It was actually a pretty good speech, and he threw everything in it. But it is true. I mean, you and I talk about a lot of serious things, but the one thing that we've always said is the insanity is never going to take away. It's not going to take away my quality of life. It's never going to take away the laughter that's out there. And the fact is, you can communicate a ton of you can communicate effectively an opinion on the insanity that exists out there by using humor. And I'll give you an example, the Babylon Bee.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, and we do it all the time. And, you think about it, now they're very brilliant, and they've made a pretty good business at it and do a great job at it. But you and I have dealt with people, that have, this is no time for laughter, and I remember coming in the night of the 2012 election. Obama won re-election, and a guy calls an Obama supporter.
Yeah.
And he's kind of railing on us because we're doing the same thing that we do every night. And he says, well, you guys sound like sore losers. I said, no, actually, you sound like a sore winner.
Because he was angry. Yeah.
He was angry. We weren't angry. Yeah. I'm not going to let them steal my joy. There are plenty of things to be angry about. And we have our moments. And our audience that's been with us for a while, they know it. We're not going to hide it when it warrants that, when really I don't care to contain it. And there are things that as a nation we need to fix. And it's a very serious time. I believe we're at a crossroads. And I also know that I'm not going to set my sense of humor aside. While there's a time and place for everything, there's always room for humor in life. And that's not going to change. And if people want to live a humorless life, I guess they can do that. Look, you can laugh at great jokes, or you can do like the vice president does and laugh at nothing.
That's the only thing that we ask.
Make it be about something.
and we take this from planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah.
Have a point.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris.
Well,
she just laughs over nothing. I mean, that's
weird.
And by the way, that I'm laughing at that because it's funny that she laughs at nothing.
It's really odd. It's funny you bring up planes, trains, automobiles. I think some of the greatest comedians. I wouldn't include Jerry Seinfeld in this, although I did see an interview with him recently, and he talked about his his upbringing and stuff, and his parents and what they went through when they were young and all that. And it was very parts of it were a very serious conversation. But I look at certain comedians that have a vulnerability in their eyes. You can see it. John Candy, when you brought up planes, trains, and automobiles, yeah. John Candy was one of those. Steve Martin, by the way, would be just the opposite of that. He was a guy that was just silly, over the top silly. And, that's another style of humor. But I think of Chris Farley, John Candy. I think of Richard Pryor, who had that certain vulnerability.
He did.
And I see it in their eyes, and that there is something else going on. And they're every single day they're looking to build that comedy. You think of Norm Macdonald. He didn't tell anyone about his illness that he dealt with for a decade that ultimately took his life because he didn't want it to be about that. He wanted to be able to go out and do what he did when he was able to do it and make people laugh. And, so you understand that it's to me, it's one of the greatest forms of communication. You can break down something, you can analyze something, the Babylon Bee included, the late George Carlin. You break down, you observe certain things, and those observations are, to me, quite important in life. It's kind of how we do things here, based on our own experiences. We kind of bring that in so that you can just walk through the, all right, in your mind, walk through the process. Like we said, the day that the president talked about, the whole cannibal thing, it's like, all right, now the hallways in the West Wing just lit up and people are just, oh my gosh, what did he just say? All right, what do we do? Do we come out pro-cannibals? Can we say the word cannibals anymore? Do we come up with a soft word for cannibals? What do we... And, we kind of look through that lens every once in a while of, my gosh, look at how crazy it is. And a lot of it is laughable. Some of it is laughable in the serious sense, and some of it is just bizarre.
One more thing I want to play, one more audio cut, because you and I actually listened to this off the air, and it's making the rounds. We want to make sure that people hear it. This was the Oxford debate that took place a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. It was Nancy Pelosi taking the side of the elites, or actually the argument was, is populism destroying democracy? Which I think is a dumb topic to begin with, because people don't know. We've talked about populism. It's the political approach. In fact, let me go here. Let me go to the Oxford Dictionary. Okay, since they were the ones that were discussing it, Oxford, a political approach that strives to appeal to ordinary people who feel that their concerns are disregarded by the established elite groups. Okay,
yeah.
So the whole thing is Trump is a populist. Trump is anti-democracy. Populism is anti-democracy. Mm-hmm. That was the setup. Now, I don't necessarily go along with the premise of it, but it still got interesting as Nancy Pelosi took off after Trump supporters and everything else. And then who debated her? Winston Marshall from Mumford and Sons.
Yeah.
The band from Great Britain. Remember, he's out of it now because of his stances. But this is just pretty cool and you can hear Nancy Pelosi goes after Nancy Pelosi, but this is really pretty interesting to listen to. Here you go.
Before COVID, intelligence services colluded with big tech to have Trump suspended off Twitter. Yes, the same platform which hosted the Taliban and Ayatollah deaf to Israel Khomeini, they thought the president crossed the line when he tweeted on Jan 6th, quote, "Remain peaceful, no violence, respect the law and our great men and women in blue." That's a quote. You may be thinking now that Trump is a populist. You are right. He didn't accept the 2020 elections, and he should have. So should Hillary in 2016, so should Brussels, and so should Westminster in 2016, and so too should Congresswoman Pelosi, instead of saying the 2016 election was, quote, hijacked. Quote, hijacked.
All right, very quickly, she's in, she debated him. She put her points up first, and she's basically saying, but I accepted it. I said it was hijacked, but I accepted it. She's in the background saying it. They just sort of ignore her.
Thank you. Okay. What about the mainstream media? Let me read you some mainstream media headlines. The New Yorker, the day before the 2016 election. The case against democracy. The Washington Post, the day after the election. The problem with our government is democracy. The LA Times, June 2017. The British election is a reminder of the perils of too much democracy. Vox, June 2017. The two eminent political scientists say the problem with democracy is voters. New York Times, June 2017. The problem with participatory democracy is the participants. Mainstream media elites are part of a class who don't just disdain populism, they disdain the people. If the Democrats had put half their energy into delivering for the people, Trump wouldn't even have a chance in 2024. He shouldn't have a chance. You've had power for 4 years. From the fabricated Steele dossier to trying to take him off the ballot in both Maine and Colorado, the Democrats are the anti-Democrat party. All we need now is the Republicans to come out as the pro-monarchist party. Ladies and gentlemen, populism is not a threat to democracy, but I'll tell you what is. It's elites ordering social media to censor political opponents. It's police shutting down dissenters, be it anti-monarchists in this country or gender-critical voices here, or last week in Brussels, the National Conservative movement. I'll tell you what is a threat to democracy. It's Brussels, DC, Westminster, the mainstream media, big tech, big pharma, corporate collusion, and the Davos cronies. The threat to democracy comes from those who write off ordinary people as deplorable. The threat to democracy comes from those who smear working people as racists. The threat to democracy comes from those who write off working people as populists. And I'll say one last thing. This populist age can be brought to an end at the snap of a finger. All that needs to be done is for elites to start listening to, respecting, and, God forbid, working for ordinary people.
There you go. Interesting. I would like to hear the entire debate and the back and forth that went on, but she got smoked. I watched her, but hers was tough to listen to because it's just so slow and she's stumbling along. And I was like, wow. I was amazed of the arrogance of the left who has no talking points but still feel they can debate because in the United States they deal with such friendly audiences all the time and friendly political activists that claim they're journalists all the time. 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, I guess a cross-examination of Cohen begins today in the Trump trial. It would be fascinating if they finished up their cross-examination by the end of the day, and tomorrow they ask the judge for a direct verdict, which means there would be no defense, because this is the time for the defense, and they say, nope, sorry, we don't know what we're defending here.
Right.
There is no crime.
Right.
The prosecution has not dictated specifically what the crime is, and the judge can then say they have not presented evidence
Right.
that shows that a crime was committed here. They claim there's a crime, but they can't tell you what a crime is. What does that do to the momentum for the Trump campaign if that happens?
Wow.
I know.
It'll be a circus if it does.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.